Chairman of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and AI. Bryan Steil, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Now, I just got to start with this question. How's your week been?
It's been busy, but yeah, I mean, this is the House. We got a narrow majority, and at the end of the day, at the end of the week, we're going to get to where we wanted to get to. We're going to move 3 critical pieces of legislation across the line. And so always in the House, it feels like in the home stretch with a narrow majority, there's final negotiations, final discussions. But the good news is the play call that was made at the start of the week is the play call we're executing today, which is passing Genius, putting that on the president's desk for signature into law. That's the stablecoin legislation. Passing Clarity, that's market structure legislation. Passing anti-CBDC legislation as well. And I think we are at the precipice here of really stamping the United States as the absolute leader in innovation and development in the crypto space.
So, Chairman, one thing that has been uncertain, I think, is for many people in the industry is whether market structure is going to be on the same timetable or a similar timetable to the stablecoin bill. A lot of discussion around that topic. Is that the current understanding and plan right now, that we're going to see market structure coming out before the midterm?
Well, it's a great question. I'm committed to making sure that we move that as quickly as possible, and I'd like to have it way before the next midterm. I think what we're going to see later today is a strong bipartisan vote in support of Clarity, the market structure legislation. That then sends it over to the Senate, hopefully on a rocket ship. We've had great comments from leaders in the Senate, from Senator Lummis, obviously Chairman Scott, Senator Haggerty, and others, that they're ready to dive into this and move this forward. And so us getting a big vote out of the House early this afternoon with overwhelming numbers of Republican and Democratic support, I think really pushes the Senate to act and drives forward some energy. I would have loved to have seen this done at the exact same time that we're going to be able to get Genius in, though, this week. I think that's really positive. But then it's going to be, let's make sure we turn our full attention to getting the Senate to take our bill up and move it forward as quickly as possible.
Congressman, so earlier this week, Senator Amy Klobuchar, the ranking Democrat on the Senate Ag Committee, said she did have some concerns with market structure, I think, as presented. And I'm curious, have there been any kind of discussions or work to try and alleviate those concerns, to try and streamline what the Senate Ag Committee's process might look like?
Well, hopefully at the end of the day, everybody is able to come on board. A lot of our conversations have obviously been engaged with Democrats here on the House side. The Amy Klobuchar being from Minnesota, her colleague from Minnesota just on the House side, Angie Craig, has been a great partner and a supporter and co-sponsor of this legislation. And so we're open to suggestions and comments in the Senate. That's fair, but we do think we have a good, strong piece of legislation with strong bipartisan support. And so I'm optimistic that we'll get all 53 Republicans in the Senate and that there will be 7 Democrats in the Senate to move forward on this legislation. It's so important that we move this forward because in many ways, the Clarity Act unlocks the potential that I think exists inside the stablecoin legislation.
Midnight is a privacy-enhancing blockchain, introducing vital, programmable privacy and selective disclosure capabilities. It means DApps can allow users to control what information is revealed without putting sensitive data on-chain, allowing you to break free from the limitation of choosing between utility or privacy. We deserve more when it comes to privacy. Experience the next generation of blockchain that is private and inclusive by design. Break free with Midnight. Visit midnight.network/breakfree.
I want to zoom out just a second for our audience who might be tuning in, who don't really understand the ins and outs of what's going on here. I know that you've said that innovation should stay on U.S. soil. Just talk to us a little bit about how these 3 bills that we're talking about ensure that and benefit both the industry and folks who interact with crypto.
No, it's a great question because I think what we have seen is a massive shift from the regulatory framework in the United States. And so we go back to the Biden administration. Chairman Gensler was chairman of the SEC. And what we got were a whole bunch of rules of the road that were poorly designed because they were from punishment and enforcement actions, a really inefficient way to put forward a policy framework. Instead, clarity says, here is the regulatory framework with which your federal agencies will oversee digital assets. It puts it in, it's clear, it's straightforward, it allows innovation and development in this space. Genius couples that with rules of the road as it relates to payment stablecoins. And so together, this tells people that want to invest their capital, their time, their energy into the crypto ecosystem, that if you do so in the United States, you will not have a rogue agency actor come in and stifle your innovation or come in and work to punish you. That, I think, is a massive shift. Not only is this administration there under the Trump administration, but putting these rules in place in a legal framework permanently, I think will unleash a lot of innovation and development in the US. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of talent, a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines waiting for this to be put in place. And we're going to unleash that innovation development inside the United States. One of the fallacies that I think occurred inside the Gary Gensler Securities and Exchange Commission and others in the previous administration was that if they worked to stifle innovation and development, it would stop. The fallacy is that what occurred was it simply went offshore. And that's how you've actually ended up in many ways with the FTX debacle and other things. Much of this innovation and development was pushed offshore, outside the US regulatory framework, bad structure, fraudulent actors. And instead, we have an opportunity to say, okay, let's put forward a legal framework. It's going to protect consumers, and it's going to allow the United States to outcompete other countries around the globe. And at the end of the day, that's good for everyone. And so I'm optimistic that we put this in place, which I think we will for sure on the stablecoin, but also followed with clarity of market structure legislation. We're going to see a real boom here in the United States in innovation and development.
So, Chairman, one person you brought up a minute ago is it's almost a name that people don't like to hear in crypto circles, former Chairman Gary Gensler. And I want to kind of ask now, given that people are, I think, understandably concerned about the SEC's role in regulating crypto, how can you address those concerns and fears from the crypto industry?
Great question. I think two things.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, obviously the CFTC has a role too. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there's two things at play, right? So we have different regulators under President Trump than we had under President Biden. So out of the gates, as Paul Atkins comes in, as others come in, we actually have a much better framework where they're not engaged in enforcement actions as the previous administration was. A different worldview of the importance of crypto and the digital asset space. The second piece of this, though, is how do we make sure that we never return to that environment in the first place? And the way that we do that is putting forward the laws that we are drafting now, both Genius, which I think will be signed into law, but also Clarity, that market structure piece, will provide a framework and rules of the road for a future SEC and a future CFTC, so they can't revert back to the enforcement actions that we saw when Chairman Gensler was at the helm of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so it's both the President Trump administration putting different people in place that are forward thinking, that lean into the crypto space. That's really good, strong, and positive in the short to medium term. But the long-term win is making sure that we pass this legislation so that we never come back to the days of Gary Gensler being at the SEC and the enforcement actions and the destruction of innovation and development that those actions resulted in.
So during the hearings leading up to the vote, former CFTC Chair Tim Massad, I think, expressed concerns about the possibility that crypto companies could try and find loopholes to exempt themselves from oversight by a particular agency. Obviously, after the bill is passed, the next steps will be for the agencies to write rules governing, implementing the legislation. Do you have any thoughts on how they can kind of, first off, do you agree with the former chairman's concerns? And then if so, how can they kind of mitigate those risks?
Well, I think what he correctly identifies is a lot of the focus is going to shift to the agencies as they draft the rules and regulations that the legislation requires. I think it's important to note maybe two things. One, in drafting this legislative text, we were able to work hand in glove with the regulatory agencies. And that stands in stark contrast to the the lack of engagement that we saw during the Biden administration. So we had great engagement from President Trump's team at both agencies in drafting this. And now as we move the ball with clarity, hopefully in the near future with Genius immediately, move the ball to the agency side, I think you're going to see solid and productive work. That said, Congress has a massive role in overseeing these agencies. And so in the Financial Services Committee, we have oversight of the Securities and Exchange Commission. You just had on G.T. Thompson. The Ag Committee has oversight of the CFTC. And so I envision us having a series of oversight hearings to make sure that we are tracking, following, and providing feedback during the rulemaking process at the respective agencies to make sure that they're following out the intent of Congress from the legislative text. And so although today is a big day in moving forward Genius to the president's desk for signature, there's going to be a lot of work ahead to make sure that the rules and regulations get formalized properly. And then with clarity, same thing, just a further step down the road as we get that through the Senate, back and across the line and into the president's desk. So let's assume that signed for a second. The requirements on our committee and other committees to make sure that these regulatory agencies are doing their job and doing it correctly is going to be of the utmost importance.
Chairman, thanks so much for joining us. I know that you probably have a busy day ahead of you, so good luck with the rest of the week.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
That was Chairman of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and AI, Bryan Steil.